So before we get going too crazy here, I've got the top and bottom cover off of the amp, and we have received our replacement light bulbs. And what we did was opt for a LED upgrade. And after some digging around and talking to other folks, what we came up with were these LEDs. And you can see they're 8-volt bi-pin LED lamps. And that's what we're going to use to replace all the bulbs in the front of this Mac. So when you look at the front of it, with the glass off of course, you can see the 5 small incandescent bulbs. One here, one here, one here, 2 more over here. Then the other 4 bulbs, which are a part of the overload circuit, are behind these little rubber whatever they are that do kind of pop out. And there you see 4 more bulbs. And you can tell, if you remember, when we showed you the busted glass, the big break was right here and it went that way. And you can actually see this bulb is burned out because it's kind of black. And then if you look at the circuit limiting bulbs, when I turn the amp on, the 2 red lights briefly flash, but what are supposed to be the green lights never come on. And they're supposed to be running all the time unless the amp goes to red lights. When this amp is turned on, these bottom 2 lights are green and should be on all the time. Well, you can see this one is burned out. And I took a little test with a 6-volt power supply, and I could light these by touching the terminals on the back of the board. But when I touched the terminals to these 2 bulbs, neither one of them lit. So we assume that these 2 are also burned out because there were never any green lights when we tried to operate the system. So you can also see that these wires to these posts here, the wires go back in through the front panel, and the bulb, which just kind of, you can just kind of pop it out of there, a little grommet there, and replace it from the back. And then we're going to have to kind of rig up our little bipole lights, or bi-pin I should say. Either add wires to them or use the wires from the old bulbs to connect them back to the posts that are both here. And you can see there's posts right here as well that connect these 2 lights. And I imagine the posts for these lights are in the rear, and we're going to have to remove a circuit board to get these lights soldered back in. So there's a task yet in front of us. It'll probably take us a bit of time, but one at a time, we're going to LED this thing. So before I do, I'm going to turn it on one more time to show you the lights that work and don't work. And then we'll be able to have a quick comparison when we get done as to if it's better or worse or whatever it is. So I think this is the power switch, or is that the power switch? Let's see. Alright, there's power. We have 2 lights. Nothing else. We do have our red LED. All of these lights worked. Not a problem. So I'm going to replace this light first just to compare its brightness to the other 2. And we'll kind of go from there. So basically I just desoldered these 2 wires from these 2 points here, and they went in through this little hole there and came back out, and there is an original incandescent light assembly then we're going to turn into an LED. Alright, so here's what I did. I took our 8-volt LED, took the wires off the old incandescent, soldered them to the leads of the LED, and then put some heat shrink over the joint. Now I'm going to reinstall it and we'll compare it. Alright, we've got the LED installed. Interestingly enough, it fit nicely right into the grommet that was already there. And we've reattached it where it came from. And we're going to power it up. I think you can see it's much brighter. Be interesting to see what happens when we put the glass up there. But it's much brighter than the old incandescents. And we're going to continue and replace the rest of these bulbs. Maybe we'll actually get some brightness out of it. Well, alright, so the rest of the ones that are actually burnt out are over here. And of course, we've got to replace at least the bottom two on the board, and we're going to replace all four while we're doing it. So when you come around and look to see where they are, you can see the little black wires right there. They are soldered to this little circuit board, which also includes the bulbs for the power circuit. And there's one bulb right there. The other one is over here. So you can see also we have the bottom cover off. I think we're going to have to take this board out. That's the easiest way to work on all of this. We can replace all the bulbs and we can wire in two new ones that both attach right here and then put it all back together. So that's what we're going to do. Alright, so we remove those two 5/16 nuts and remove one from the bottom down here and the other one from the top. And you can see there's a couple of white wires right here in this corner that are still attached, and I didn't really want to desolder them. So I think I've got adequate working space just by raising it up. I did disconnect the ribbon cable carefully from the protector circuit board, and I'm going to try to do the repairs from here. It's the black wires that have our damaged bulbs, and we're going to pull those and replace them with LEDs. Well, alright, we've got that all replaced, and we're going to give it a test and make sure they work. And they do. And as you can see, these are quite a bit brighter than the originals. So these are the last two we've got to do. And you see, even with the power off, those continue to glow because of the capacitors back here that are still holding a charge. So until they drain, they won't go out. I'm a little surprised that the upper red lights that will be red when we put the lights on stayed on. They only blinked on before. I may have to do some more investigation there. But for now, we're going to replace these two to get all LEDs on the front panel. And these are best replaced from the bottom. So in turning the unit over, you can see there's the one bulb right there. And the other bulb's over in this corner. That one's going to be a little hard to get back in, but you can just, to get them out, of course, you just push them through and they'll come right out. So we'll get those out, and the good thing is the wiring is done on the front panel right here, so this should be pretty straightforward. Well, we've got the 4-6 screws mounted. So the faceplate is temporarily mounted, and now it's time to deal with the extra plastic piece that covers the switches. And you might recall they sent us a new cardboard insert for this that we figured we just wouldn't use. But we did find that all of this goo from when we separated it is actually a fairly thick piece of stuff that we've been trying to begin to take off now using a razor knife to get behind the seams and peel it back. And they did provide a new piece, two-sided sticky stuff that we will use to remount the plate on the glass. Well, it did come off, and you might be happy to know it only took 7, 8, 10 minutes. Came off fairly well. If you're careful and take your time, you can get off some pretty significant pieces and then hack out the rest. So now I imagine with something like this you get one shot at putting that in the right place and sticking it to the back of the plate so we can stick it to the front of the glass. Well, there we go, we got it on. Basically what we did was peel off the other side about down to here and fold it back, and then really carefully aligned it with these first two big holes, and then kind of slowly worked our way down, and it's pretty close. I think it'll be just fine. So now we're going to peel off this backer and put it on the receiver. And there we go. Seems odd they didn't put, plastic nuts over the input jacks or something to help hold this thing all together. But now we're going to put the knobs back on.
They told me that the sun turned green.
Well, there it is.
I said I didn't know.
Faceplate replaced, and all the bulbs changed. We changed the panel lights with LEDs, and we changed the power guard with regular 7382 light bulbs.
And I said I'd let that go, but when they told